Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everybody, to your favorite soccer podcast. Super happy to be back on here talking to you guys again about, our favorite sport and just getting back out there. You guys already know. Hope you guys are all staying safe, as always, and let's get right into what we're going to be talking about in today's show, with the first part of the show going to be about the 2020-21 Nations League finally getting underway. Honestly, before I started researching on it, I didn't even know about the Nations League. I know that's terrible, but I love the concept of it, and I'm just super excited to be talking about just the start of it and, just a few of the games that have already gotten underway. In the second part of the show, we're going to be talking about the La Liga 2020-21 season coming up. Like the other top 5 leagues I've talked about, I'm going to be, giving you guys a little preview of each team. In the third part, I'm going to be talking about the MLS top performers of this early season. And then, of course, some more world transfer news, because we can always use that in our lives. And for the final part of the show, my favorite, it's going to be the top 10 central midfielders in the world. So let's just get right into it, talking about the 2020-21 Nations League. We're finally getting some international soccer with this tournament, and honestly, I'm just super excited to talk about the games from day one in the competition. We got 2 games from League A, with Germany and Spain, and we got Ukraine and Switzerland, but there were plenty of other exciting games that occurred in the other leagues, and we're going to get into the most exciting ones. So it is important to mention that this is the first international matches in over 8 months, so we can't really make a huge judgment on these games, but it's still going to be super exciting just to talk about them, our favorite countries getting at it and, ready to win the Nations League. And honestly, before I even start talking about these games, I just want to say how, I just love the concept of this, just because, I never tuned into international friendlies. They were just so boring. You'd see, Spain against, Latvia or something, and it's just, there really isn't anything there. Now there's something for them to, fight for, and you can see it on the pitch. There's a new sense of energy with the, oh my god, I don't know if you guys heard that, but my desk just had a mess going on. But it's just I just love this new sense of competition in the international field. Aside from your usual Euros, Copa America, all that, you now get some something extra. And like I've always said, this is what I love about soccer. There's never enough. There really is never enough. So let's get right into it, talking about the Germany versus Spain game that ended in a 1-1 draw. There really is no better place to start than these two international giants. They're still 2 of the top countries in the world, and but they're both getting the next generation ready for these really the World Cup, the Euros. It's just they're starting to get those young players ready. So let's just look into the lineups for both teams. that they decided to go with. Starting with Spain, they of course had David De Gea at the starting at goalkeeper over Kepa after, his complete mess of a season. And then you have Jose Gaya at left back, the two center backs, Pau Torres, and of course the captain, Sergio Ramos. And in right back, you have Dani Carvajal. In the midfield, you have Thiago along with Sergio Busquets and Fabian Ruiz. And up top, you have Jesus Navas, Rodrigo as your striker, and Ferran Torres. So when you look at that lineup, you have a mix of youth with, your Jose Gaya. Well, not real youth, but you got Paul Torres, you got of course Ferran Torres, and then you got your veterans with Ramos, Busquets, Dani Carvajal, Thiago. Like, you got a good mix there. But going with Germany, at goalkeeper, they started Kevin Trapp. Now, when I saw that, I was really confused because they had Bernd Leno in the bench, and I was wondering whether he was injured, because I know Neuer and on all those Bayern Munich players were given a rest for these first two games. So I just didn't understand why Bernd Leno wasn't starting. But as you'll find out very soon, Trapp proved me wrong. At right back, we had Thilo Kehrer from PSG. At the two center back positions, you had Nicolas Süle and Antonio Rudiger. And at left back, you had a new call-up in Robin Gosens, who showed that he belongs here, honestly. At the midfielding positions, you had Emre Can, Toni Kroos, the captain, of course, and Ilkay Gundogan. And up top, of course, you got Julian Draxler, Timo Werner at striker, and Leroy Sané. Now, the Spain and manager Luis Enrique had a bit on the line here, as they had a 2-year unbeaten streak heading into this match. And it was very close. As you'll find out, Germany took the lead real early, and to start the second half, but little do they know, that ugly head of Germany's just terrible finishing in these international games just reared its ugly head again, with them, giving up a late goal because Joachim Low just loves to play defensive and doesn't want to, take the initiative. It's just terrible. But let's just get into how this game started. Like I said in the beginning, this is a mix of both. You got your youth and, of course, your veteran players on both sides, and they each went with a 4-3-3 formation. The biggest takeaway I got from these early parts of the games was the mistakes that happened on both ends. This was expected because, like I had told you guys in the beginning, it's been 8+ months since these teams have been able to, come together. They obviously look a lot different because, there's some players that are getting their first call-ups. So these managers are, just trying to get a feel for their teams because they haven't been able to do any, I guess friendlies in some way are good there, but it's just, they're kind of just working on the fly here. So, honestly, Spain held on to possession for most of this game and were connecting better on the passes than Germany, which is kind of surprising because Germany has always been considered just a machine. Obviously, they're kind of a little bit far away from those days, but it was still kind of close, with Spain completing 89% of their passes and Germany completing 83%. The biggest problem was that neither team were delivering on, a final ball when they had those chances. It just looked sloppy throughout. Germany had some flashes, because Leroy Sané looking really good up top, being able to beat a couple defenders, but it's just when it came down to really trying to get the ball into the net, it just never really worked out for them. So at halftime, it went in at 0-0. And clearly Luis Enrique felt that his team needed a bit more youth and pace up top. So he brought in Ansu Fati for Jesus Navas at halftime. Unfortunately, that didn't do much help on the defensive end, as Germany would go on to score pretty much right after that in the 51st minute. Gundogan just delivered an absolute beauty of a long ball to Robin Gosens, who was running up the left side of the pitch, and he was able to find Timo Werner with enough space inside the box for him to just, pull off some magic and show why he's one of the best strikers in the world, and slot it right by David De Gea. I mean, De Gea didn't even have a chance. He didn't even go for the ball because he couldn't even see it. So, huge first goal for Germany to go up 1-0. And after that, they continued to have some solid attacking play. They just couldn't extend that lead because of some poor finishing. And it just so happened to be by Werner with Leroy Sané. I mean, he was just all over the place for Germany, creating a lot of good chances. He got Werner a really good chance, shortly after that goal. He hit the side of the net, didn't make it in. It just, they would soon regret that because, of course, like I said, Spain got a really, really late goal, like last second goal. But after, Leroy Sané, like I said, he was doing really well. I mean, he was like probably the most effective player on the pitch for Germany. However, in the 60th minute, he asked to get subbed off because obviously, I mean, we know that Leroy Sané is coming off a really bad injury, probably, easily the worst of his career, and it's not easy just to come back from that. He did make that move to Bayern Munich, and luckily, after it was nothing too serious, and he decided to come off just in case. However, the substitution by Lowe was kind of questionable. I mean, he brought in defender Matthias Ginter for Sané. Kind of, obviously showing that he wanted to just hold on to that 1-0 lead. And honestly, that's been the problem with Germany. They've always just tried to, skim by with those 1-0 leads and it always bites them in the butt, And after all of his substitutions, he had 5 defenders and 2 fullbacks on the pitch. I mean, that literally gives Spain complete leeway to do whatever they want. I mean, they're obviously going to have a lot of defenders in their way, but eventually when you get that much possession, you get that many chances, you're going to capitalize on one of them. And it just so happened to be in the 94th minute, as Ferran Torres was easily one of the best players on the pitch for Spain. And he came up huge at the end. He never gave up on that final ball and delivered a perfect cross into the box that was met by Gaia, who headed it into the net. I mean, obviously it's a terrible way to lose for Germany. I mean, giving up a late equalizer in extra time. But, I mean, they only have themselves to blame, or I guess their manager, Joachim Low, with those questionable, substitutions. But Spain were able to hold on to that 2-year unbeaten streak, even though it was definitely at risk. And, I mean, Germany just continue with those problems of winning tight games. The man of the match has to go to Thiago. I mean, this man, just as he has all season, was the key to this victory for Spain. I mean, obviously not all season for Spain, but he was like pretty much one of the keys to Bayern Munich's treble this year. But just the same, man, he was the key to this victory for Spain. He was delivering perfect ball after perfect ball, but Spain just couldn't put them away. So he didn't get an assist, but he had 122 touches, most on the team, completed 93% of his 104 passes, which is ridiculous, and he had 41 final third passes. He was obviously giving his players opportunities, and he was creating for himself. He had 3 successful dribbles, and on the defensive end, he was no slouch. He had 9 recoveries and won 6 of 12 duels. He was literally all over the place and is, definitely deserving of this Man of the Match award. A couple guys that I need to mention are, of course, David De Gea. For as much hate and criticism that he receives, and it's definitely due because he's had a lot of mistakes, he was huge in this game. I mean, he made huge saves for Spain and kept them in this game for them to be able to equalize it. And so he definitely deserves some mentions here. Of course, another one, the other goalkeeper, Kevin Trapp, like I said at the beginning, he proved me wrong. He was huge in this game, making big saves, and was clearly the right choice over Bernd Leno. I mean, of course, you don't know what Bernd Leno would have done if he was in there, but couldn't have been much better than what Trapp did. And he would have definitely been the man of the match had that equalizer not gone in. And of course, I got to talk about Ferran Torres, who just showed up in a big way for Spain. I mean, getting that final assist and just always, using his pace and dribbling skills to really cause problems for Germany. Now let's head into our game. Well, that's going to obviously be the end for the Germany-Spain game. And now let's move on to the Ukraine versus Switzerland match that ended in a 2-1 win for Ukraine. These are the other two teams in Group D, along with Spain and Germany, of course. And many people would have expected Switzerland to come away with a win here, or at least a draw. But those people don't know how good Ukraine have been, at least, since the last time they played international matches. And they proved those people wrong with a strong 2-1 win to start the tournament. And they're actually in the lead now of the group with Spain and Germany drawing. So let's go into the starting 11. Bear with me on some of these names, guys. It's not easy. But for Switzerland starting 11, they had Jan Sommer at goalkeeper. The defenders, they had a five-man back line with Steven Zuber, Ricardo Rodriguez, Manuel Akanji, Nico Elvedi, and Kevin Mbabu, all in the back line. In the defense, in their midfield, they had Ruben Vargas, their captain Granit Xhaka, Jibril So, and Bril Mbolo in the midfield. And of course, up top by himself, they had Haris Seferovic. I personally didn't like this lineup, with them playing so back with 4 and 5, 4 in the midfield and 5 in the back line. They did end up pushing those players up a little more to give Seferovic some help in the attack, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of playing so passive and so defensive. I understand they are missing a bit of flair with Shaqiri out with an injury, but in order to win in the international game, you need to be aggressive. I mean, Germany literally just showed that. They tried to play defensive, and it hurt them. So for Ukraine, their starting 11, they had a 4-2-3-1 formation. Goalkeeper Yatov. I'm going to go Patov is probably the way his name is said. At goalkeeper, their left back Mikhailichenko at left back. Man, that's such a good, I got that name down packed. At center back, they had Mykola Matvienko and Siri Kritsov. And at right back, they had the debut of Alexander Timšik. And of course, in the midfield, you have Ruslan Malinovsky from Atalanta. And you had Taras Stepanenko from, what's that team name? It's at the tip of my tongue. Shakhtar Donetsk. Of course, then you also had Yevhen Konolinka, and the star of the team, Alexander Zinchenko. And then, of course, up top, you had Junior Moraes and Andriy Yarmolenko. I actually did like this formation a lot. It had a lot of options for them, and they still were able to stay defensive in the back. And at the beginning of this game, you could just tell that Switzerland were not just going to let Ukraine come at them. Like I said, Embolo and Vargas were pushing up and playing more like wingers alongside Seferovic. They just didn't have the quality in the attacking third to make their runs, effective. But for Ukraine, they had a really good chance early in the game with a rocket from Malinovsky hitting off the woodwork and landing right at the feet of Yarmolenko, and he also missed wide, hitting the side of the net. But that was kind of a sign of things to come, because Ukraine were just very aggressive in this game and were just giving it to Switzerland. And little did they know, the goal came in the 14th minute with the debutant Timšik finding space in the right wing, fired it at goal, and secured the rebound, giving an excellent assist to Yarmolenko, who had such a cheeky finish with a back heel into the net. It was so nice. I mean, of course, a guy of his experience is going to pull off something like that, and it was just so nice. And Ukraine were just looking better than Switzerland throughout this game, connecting in the final third just much cleaner. Switzerland were getting into the Ukraine half. They just, like I said, they just couldn't connect. It was just the underlying issue for Switzerland in this game. However, they did get one shot on target in this entire game, and it came from their star striker, Seferovic, with an absolute wonder goal, trying to get space between the Ukraine defense and just punching it into the bottom right corner from outside the box. He was at least I'm going to say it was 35 yards out. But that was the thing. That was literally all they could do. They needed that kind of wonder goal to get on the board. And they had to hope that their defense was good enough to keep Ukraine out for another goal. And it just wasn't. Because Zinchenko, I mean, my goodness. He had one touch in the box. One touch. And that one touch was just an absolute beauty of a goal. He was all the way on the left side of the box. And he got a solid pass or whatever. It was nothing crazy. It was just kind of like a back pass. And what did he do? Didn't even think about it. First touch. Over the goalkeeper, hitting the right side of the net. Just absolutely ridiculous goal from Zinchenko to give his team a 2-1 lead. And it just shows the world-class skill that this 23-year-old has. And there's a reason he's at Manchester City. But this is the kind of player that they're going to need if they want to, surprise people in this tournament. So obviously, no doubt in my mind, the man of the match has to go to Alexander Zinchenko with his goal. He also completed 90% of his 69 passes and had an interception, 9 recoveries, 4 of 4 aerials won. He was all over the place and did it all for Ukraine. This is the kind of player they're going to need to surprise Germany and Spain. No doubt about it. A couple guys that need mentions, Granit Xhaka. What Zinchenko did for Ukraine is what Xhaka was for Switzerland. He had the best game of any Swiss player, even Severovic, who got that, obviously, crazy goal. But that was pretty much all he did in this game. And not his fault, he just doesn't have enough quality players behind him to get him the ball. But Xhaka was easily the best playmaker on this team, and he controlled the midfield beautifully for Switzerland. I'm also going to talk about Yarmolenko with him opening that game with that backheel goal. Unbelievable. His work rate, up top for Ukraine is huge, and they're going to need even bigger things from him moving forward. And of course, Alexander Timšík, who in his debut for Ukraine just showed a lot of poise for a man, for a kid his age. He's 23 years old, and he looks very solid for them. So, that's going to finish it off for Ukraine versus Switzerland. And now let's just quickly talk about 2 games that I thought were pretty good, with Russia versus Serbia in League B, with Russia beating Serbia 3-1. Remember the Russian team that just looked super strong in the World Cup. They were the host country, and they showed up. And they looked good in this game, but honestly, Serbia actually looked better. They had more shots, they had more possession, more passes, and their passing accuracy was better. It was just that in that final third, having their striker Artem Zuba was just pretty much the difference maker. The fact that he was able to make those few chances count. And of course, I got to talk about Karavayev. I'm probably butchering his name, but he scored an absolute wonder goal from outside the box. Is pretty much, I believe it's a candidate already for goal of the tournament. But Artem's poise was just perfect and very needed for the Russian side. And then the other game was Wales versus Finland. This wasn't that fun of a match to watch. I mean, Wales only had 1 shot on target off 3 shots, and Finland actually didn't even get a shot on target, which was actually crazy. Dude, towards the end of the game, they had a beautiful chance, but I don't even remember who the player was, but he was literally right in front of goal. Right in front of goal with a beautiful chance to tie the game up. Or no, to take the lead, actually. And hit it right up against the woodwork. Just not a good start for them in this tournament. But Wales did come away with the victory with a goal from Kiefer Moore, the giant. The guy, literally, as he was walking onto the pitch, he almost hit his head with the door as he was walking out of the building. That's how big he is. Daniel James played very well for them, but the man of the match, I have to give it to the defensive midfielder, Ethan Mpadu. I mean, dude, the guy was flawless in the midfield. He completed 97% of his 78 passes, won 5 of 6 duels, 2 of 3 tackles, and he had an interception. He just, playing beyond his years, because he's young. I think he's only 20 years old, and he's just playing huge. I thought Daniel James was also very solid. I mean, he got the assist to Moore, but gotta give it to Impadu, who just completely controlled the midfield for Wales. So that's going to wrap it up for my Nations League recap. At least, the first game. We have a lot more exciting games coming up. I'm definitely going to be talking about them in my next show, so make sure you guys, get ready for that. And now in the upcoming segment, I'm going to be talking about the upcoming La Liga season. Stick around, guys.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everybody. If you missed the last segment, I talked about the UEFA Nations League getting underway. I talked about the matches in League A, and of course a couple other matches that happened in the first day. And now we're going to be talking about the upcoming La Liga season. As I've been doing for my past couple shows, continuing my previews of the top 5 leagues. They're up with their upcoming seasons, and I'm continuing that today with La Liga. La Liga did have a very exciting title race last season, with Real Madrid taking back the league title from Barcelona as the season was drawing to a close. However, overall, La Liga has lost a bit of that spark that we've been so used to over the years. It could be because Cristiano Ronaldo is no longer in Real Madrid, and you don't have that rivalry between Messi and Ronaldo, and that was obviously always the talk in La Liga, and it seems to have carried that league. I mean, I'm not saying that the quality's down, because it's still, a very solid league, but it's no longer in conversation with like Premier League or, it kind of never was, because the competition was never there. It was always, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and then, Atletico every now and then, but that was pretty much it. So, but there are still a bunch of high quality sides throughout this Spanish top flight. And I'm going to be talking about all of them as I discuss the different races going on throughout the table. Starting with, of course, the title race between, I believe it's actually going to be a 4-team race this year. It could end up being a 1-team race, with Real Madrid possibly being able to take it all this year and, kind of dominate and have their first back-to-back title-winning seasons in, I believe 12 years. But the 4-team race, I believe, is going to be between Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and Sevilla. I feel Sevilla is going to be a very quiet, shadow team coming into this season. So starting with Real Madrid, their key player coming up in this season is easily going to be Karim Benzema. What he does for them on the offensive end is huge. Obviously with Ronaldo leaving, he's been the guy that stepped up in his absence. You would have expected a guy like Eden Hazard to, step up, but he just hasn't been able to, really, come up to expectations that are expected in Real Madrid. But they are easily the better team. They're easily the best team going into this upcoming season. They finished last year in the restart with they had a 10-game winning streak to start that restart. They drew or lost the last game, but at that point they had already won the league title, so it didn't even matter. And a lot of that has to do with their defense, their suffocating defense that allowed just 25 goals in 38 matches. And this was due in large part to the contributions from Casemiro, Sergio Ramos, and of course Courtois. who are all some of the best players at their positions. However, like I just said, the key to them this season is Karim Benzema showing up once again. I mean, he was huge. He had a 20-plus goal season, just behind Messi for the Golden Boot. And, I mean, they probably call it something else in La Liga. I just don't remember what the award's called. But he's going to be huge. And but they also need some of those other guys to step up. Like, Eden Hazard needs to have a strong season. Luka Jovic, like, where is he? If he's not going to show up, they need to sell him. Because after all that money that they spent on those two guys, they can't just be on the bench. They can't just be, not contributing to the first team. They are getting Martin Odegaard back after a successful loan season at Real Sociedad. And he should definitely get some playing time. I can even see him in the starting 11 in this upcoming season. So that's going to be very interesting to watch as he brings a lot of playmaking and flair into that midfield. So now let's talk about Barcelona and the mess that's going on there. It looks like Messi's actually possibly staying with reports recently coming out that he's not going to be able to get out of that $700 million release clause. So things are looking better for Barcelona, at least on paper, because who knows how he's going to react to having to stay there an extra season. But I still believe the key player for them this season is going to be Antoine Griezmann. I mean, they're huge signing from last year. They need him to step up in a big way and become the leader of this team, especially with the mess going on with Messi and the board. They need Griezmann to come out on top. They need him to, take the reins of this organization. They still have a lot of quality in the side with, Frankie De Young, Marc-Andre Ter Stegen, Ansu Fati. They got a lot of strong players. So they're not going anywhere in terms of, being at the top of the table. But it's just, at least they'll have Messi, but without him, without him actually being 100% with the club, it changes the style of play for Barcelona. I mean, he's been Barcelona for so long. It's hard not to feel that this is going to be a transition year for them. But of course, I could be wrong. I mean, they have so much talent. I mean, they're bringing in Miralem Pjanic from Juventus. So, I mean, they got a lot of great players. But, with under manager Ronald Koeman, who's changing things up there. I mean, he wants things to be different there at Barcelona than it has been. And it needs to be, obviously, for them to reach back, at the top of where they've been. But they need to look for something else. They need a different spark on this team. And of course they're giving the door, they're kicking, long-term staple players like Busquets, Piqué, Luis Suarez, and Rakitic, who we're going to be talking about very soon. So it's going to be hard not to see Barcelona up top, but I mean, they might not finish top two. But again, like they're up here in this title race because they can't be anywhere else, Next, let's talk about Atletico Madrid. Their key player, of course, is going to be Jan Oblak, and this season hangs on whether Atletico Madrid can hold on to him. I mean, he has established himself as the best goalkeeper in the world, and Atletico need to hold on to him. They can't because there's been some talks about him possibly getting a swap to Chelsea because he hasn't liked the way the organization has kind of like handled recent just the way that they play. He doesn't like that they kind of like are passive. They're okay with being behind Barcelona, Real Madrid. He doesn't want that. He wants to win, of course. Who doesn't? But it looks like they could also be losing Thomas Partey, who was huge for their success. If they lose either one, it'll be nearly impossible for them to keep up with Barcelona and obviously Real Madrid. But they still have like a solid group. I mean, up top they got Alvaro Morata, João Felix, and obviously you got Koke and Sao. I mean, they got really good players. The problem is that Diego Simeone needs to find a way to get a more free-flowing offense out of this group. It's just like they got too much talent up there to just play defensive and wait for the other team to make a mistake for them to counter. It's just like they have too much talent for that to just happen that way. But overall, this is a group that can look a lot different heading into this upcoming season, and it's hard to really know where they'll end up before then. So I still have Atletico in the title race because, of all the quality that they have on their squad. And, they have a really good manager in Diego Simeone, but we need to keep an eye out on Atletico. Now, next we're going to be talking about Sevilla, and I love the way this team is looking. I mean, I know they lost Ever Banega, and he was huge for them. I mean, he's been a proven, playmaker for them, but they are bringing in Ivan Rakitic, and he's not only the top transfer for them, but he's going to be the key player for this upcoming season. I mean, he's a proven winner and high-quality talent, and more than makes up for the loss of Banega. But, I mean, the fact that they're able to also hold on to Lucas Ocampos, and the fact that they're bringing in, they brought back Suso permanently. I mean, that's huge. And, of course, I can't leave out the signing of Real Madrid youngster attacking midfielder Oscar Rodriguez. I could see him breaking into the starting 11 and providing a boost in the attack. Of course, losing veteran Simon Kjaer hurts a bit, but they still have some quality there. With Europa, it looks like Europa League hero Diego Carlos is staying with the club because, of course, all these troubles with people having to find transfer funds, and it doesn't look like Diego Carlos is going to be on the way out. And of course, the young Jules Koundé has looked more than ready to fill those boots of Kjaer that is on the way out. So overall, look out for Sevilla next season. They're going to be big, and I could see them squeaking into the top two. With Barcelona looking the way they are, I mean, maybe with Messi now, probably not, but keep an eye out on Sevilla, guys. Now let's get into the European competition race, and I have Real Sociedad, Villarreal, Athletic Club, Getafe, and Real Betis in that race. Let's first start with Real Sociedad. Their key player this season is going to be Mikel Oyarzabal, and of course their top transfer is obviously David Silva. Now with key midfielder Martin Odegaard heading back to this parent club of Real Madrid, it wasn't looking good for Real Sociedad, but being able to sign David Silva is just huge. I mean, he's going to add so much poise to that midfield and just control in that attacking midfielding position. And he's going to be the key for them to fight for a European spot. If he can bring, his high quality there, and just be a big part of the team, I could see them having an even better season and squeezing into that top four. It's possible, depending on if one of those top four teams, doesn't look as good starting into the season. But they still have some really strong players. I mean, they're keeping Mikel Merino and Mikel, of course, Oyarzabal. They're going to be vital to Real's attack, and combining with Silva should make things a lot easier for them. I'm not saying Odegaard was obviously very strong. I mean, he had 6 assists for them last season, but Silva is just a much more just a veteran presence. He's one of the best midfielders in the world, and but they are the thing that worries about Real Sociedad is their defense. It's very shaky. However, they are getting another year of experience for their young backline that consists of Robin Lenormand. He's 23 years old, and same thing for Igor Zubeldia. But, tagging them along with Diego Llorente, they should see some improvement, but they haven't added anything there, so they're going to be relying on their development. And I just don't see that going very well. Next, let's talk about Villarreal. Their key player, of course, is going to be Gerard Moreno, and I feel like they've made some really, really strong additions. They were one of the more exciting teams last year to watch as they scored 63 goals, which was good for third in the league behind Giants, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. They were led by, of course, Gerard Moreno with his 18 goals and 5 assists, and Santi Cazorla with his 11 goals and 9 assists. They have lost Cazorla on a free transfer, but they've added Real Madrid Academy product Takefusa Kubo and Valencia star midfielder Danny Parejo to make up for it. And it will. I mean, Kubo has unbelievable skill. He showed it on his loan season last year, and he's going to do the same for Villarreal this year. I mean, Real Madrid are super high on him. So when you have that kind of guy coming into your squad, I mean, it's very exciting. So they've also boast a strong, strong defense. While losing Carl Ikambi, who put up 6 goals for them does hurt. They still have Pau Torres, Raul Albiol, and a newly acquired defensive midfielder, Francesco Quelin, backing up Sergio Asenjo. That's going to be huge for them this season, and if their defense can improve, I could see them definitely getting a Champions League spot. Now, next we have Athletic Bilbao. Their key player is going to be goalkeeper Unai Simon. Athletic Club are running it back with the same squad from last season that finished 11th. It was a disappointing end to their season as they were looking very solid in a possible Europe spot before losing 4 of their last 5 matches. However, being able to keep the same squad and not losing anybody will prove beneficial for them, especially this season with a lot of other teams losing their players. The biggest challenge is scoring on a regular basis, as the usually consistent Artes Aduriz just didn't have the magic in his last season with the club. And their leading goal scorer, Raul Garcia, who had 15 goals, just got little to no help on that side of the field. So they need to improve on that end, and at least having in the back goalkeeper Unai Simon is key to their defense. I mean, his 76.7 save percentage and 12 clean sheets were among the best in La Liga, so he's going to be huge for them. Next, we're going to talk about Getafe, who being able to hold on to Marc Cucurella was huge. I mean, he was there on loan from Barcelona, and they've been able to sign him permanently. He's just going to help so much in the attack, and just another season of him, just improving. And, he obviously loved it there. For him to want to sign permanently was a big reason for them to finish 5th. They finished 8th after finishing 5th the year before. So they obviously need to get him in there because of their lack of offensive production. Jamie Mata and Angel Rodriguez will also be important pieces in that attack, as their 11 and 10 goals respectively led the club. But bringing in Ines Unal from Villarreal will add some much-needed youth up top as well. So that's the key, getting that attack much better. And Marc Cucurella, keep an eye on him, guys. Keep an eye on him. Next, let's talk about Real Betis. Their key player is going to be Nabil Fekir, and their top transfer is getting Claudio Bravo. Real Betis were a huge disappointment the last 2 seasons after finishing 6th in 2017-18. Their defense has always been an issue, but now it's their ineptitude on the offensive end that has really derailed them. They have failed to score 50 goals in back-to-back seasons, and that is the main reason they have failed to challenge for a Europa spot. Joaquin, Sergio Canales, and Loren Morn will be expected to step up and have bigger seasons, but the offense revolves around Nabil Fekir. He's the key to them getting back at the top, and I feel like this season could be one of the best seasons defensively, as they've added veterans goalkeeper Claudio Bravo and center back Victor Ruiz to the club. They'll be huge for Betis this upcoming season. So now let's get into the mid-table race with Granada, Valencia, Osasuna, Levante, Real Valladolid, and Celta de Vigo. Starting off with Granada, their key player, Granada were by far the biggest surprise of La Liga last season, as they were a newly promoted club and were expected to struggle in the Spanish top flight. They obviously proved those doubters wrong very quickly as they ended in a Europa spot at number 7 and were even at the top of the table at one point during the season. Bringing back defensive midfielder Yangel Herrera for another loan season from Man City is huge and a coup, honestly. I didn't see them bringing him back. He's a very strong defender and contributes on the offensive end as well. Leading goal scorer Carlos Fernandez, along with forwards Roberto Soldado and Antonio Puertas, will be the main source of goals for this Granada side. However, their young star shot stopper, Rui Silva, will be the key to them finishing in the top half of the table once again. He had 12 clean sheets and a 72% save percentage, so he's just going to be huge for them. Next, let's talk about Valencia and the mess that's going on there. I mean, what a fall from the top it's been for Valencia, who for the past 2 seasons finished 4th and looked like a major challenger to the usual top 3. but have now crashed down and are looking at a mid-table finish at best this season. They've sold key players Ferran Torres, Rodrigo, Francis Coquelin, while Danny Parejo has left on a free transfer with no significant additions being made. It also looks like star goalkeeper Jasper Chilesen could be on the way out after just one season with the club. I mean, this is going to be a much weaker side that'll have a lot of trouble creating offense. And their only hope is that their young forward duo of Maxi Gomez and Concalo Guedes improve dramatically and become stars for this team. That's the only chance they have to, have a mid-table finish. Next, let's talk about Osasuna. A solid season for Osasuna last season, who made it back to La Liga after a 2-year absence and finished 10th. The additions of Ruben Garcia, Ezequiel Avila, and Pervis Estupinang proved to be huge for the club as they were vital to their attack. However, Roberto Torres will be the main focal point of attack as he leads the team in assists with 8 and contributed with 7 goals as well. Garcia and Avila are staying, but Estupinang was on loan from Watford, so he went back to his parent club. However, the addition of Juan Cruz was a big one, as it adds a playmaker at the fullback position, as he had 8 assists for his first club last season. Osasuna do need to get better on the defensive end if they want another solid mid-table finish, and having La Liga veteran defender Raul Navas for a full season will certainly help with that. Next, let's talk about Levante. Levante were an average club last season. I mean, they finished 12th. It could have been much worse had it not been for the heroics of star goalkeeper Aitor Fernandez. More often than not, his defense would be unorganized and would just bail him out. Would just leave him out to dry, and he would bail them out. I mean, his 152 saves led the league by a mile. I mean, I think the next one was like at 117. Ridiculous. So adding defensive midfielder Mikael Mausa will certainly help them there, but it's just not going to be enough to turn this team around. I still see them finishing mid to lower table, but, we'll have to wait and see. Now for Real Valladolid, Valladolid, since they were promoted to the Spanish top flight 2 years ago, they have had major trouble producing goals with 32 goals in each of the past 2 seasons. They did improve their defense with after allowing 51 goals the year before last. Now they had 50. My bad, I completely messed that up. But they had 43 goals allowed last season and then 51 the year before. So they've obviously improved on that end. And goalkeeper Jordi Masip has been one of the biggest reasons for that. His 73 save percentage and 11 clean sheets were among the best, and he's going to be relied on heavily. And last we got Celta De Vigo. Celta De Vigo, they were just extremely lucky last season as they were just 1 point out of the relegation zone. And after a strong push from Leganes late in the season, which obviously still ended up with them getting relegated. And this was the second straight season of them finishing 17th. And once again, Iago Aspas just came to the rescue for this team, leading them with 14 goals. No one else really had the ability to get a goal, as Santi Mina was the next leading scorer with 6. And they just need to add more there. I mean, getting at a Real Madrid Academy product, Miguel Baeza, will help, as he had 10 goals and 6 assists in 32 appearances last season. But I think that they need more. I feel like this is going to be another possible relegation battle. But I mean, with those additions, I still see them getting a little better offensively. And, of course, Iago Aspas is still there, so they're going to be good once again. Now, quickly, I want to get through the relegation race kind of quick. I have SD, Huesca, Elche, Cadiz, Eibar, and Deportivo Alavas in the relegation race. I mean, all these teams just kind of... The only team I see as a possible, not being in the relegation is Cadiz. I mean, they're newly promoted side, but they had the best defense in the league in the Segunda Division last season, allowing just 39 goals. And a big reason for that was their veteran between the sticks, 41-year-old Alberto Cifuentes. He's going to be vital in keeping his team level-headed as they try to follow that trend of newly promoted sides staying in the top flight. And I feel like they have the best chance of these teams to stay up there. So that's going to do it all for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around as I'm going to talk about the top performers in this early MLS season. And Of course, going to be talking about some world transfer news, so make sure you guys stick around.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back, everybody. In the last segment, we talked about the La Liga season coming up. Obviously, I talked about all the teams and just a little preview of each. Now we're going to be talking about all the top performers of the MLS early season and some world transfer news at the end, because we all need that in our lives, of course. So let's just get right into it. The MLS is just about 10 regular season games old now, so I think it's a good time to talk about some of the top performers of the early season. And in this discussion, I'm only going to be considering regular season games, which excludes the knockout rounds from the MLS's back tournament. Just keep that in mind. So just getting right into it, some of the top performers, it's hard not to talk about the leading scorer in the MLS in Diego Rossi for LAFC. He's got 9 goals and 2 assists so far this season, and it's crazy. I mean, Rossi has just gotten better and better since his arrival to the MLS in 2018. In 2018, he had 12 goals and 6 assists, and the year after, he had 16 goals and 6 assists, and it looks like he's on his way to topping those numbers once again. Rossi is obviously just doing it all for LAFC, with MVP Carlos Vela missing most of the season so far. And the way he has been able to handle being the main man for LAFC is very encouraging for his club and, of course, a lot of teams in Europe. Don't be surprised if you see this guy in a lot of rumor speculations, because he's just been killing it. He's obviously getting a bigger workload in the attack, with Vela, opting out of that MLS's back tournament and getting injured in the first game of Phase 1 of the regular season. However, it's just so scary that LAFC are the highest scoring team so far in the league without their MVP. And obviously Rossi is a big reason for that, but it's unbelievable. They obviously have a lot of quality in their side, and they're considered one of the best teams heading into the season for a reason. But without Carlos Vela, are you kidding me? When I saw him play against Inter Miami early in the season, I saw how much quality Vela had. So it's just a testament to how good Diego Rossi and obviously LAFC have been this season. And obviously his best game was, of course, his 4-goal performance versus the LA Galaxy during the group stage of the MLS's back tournament. Next, we're going to be talking about an American forward in Chris Mueller of Orlando City. He's got 6 goals and 2 assists so far this season, and Mueller has just come out hot. He came out hot to start the season with 4 goals in his first 5 games, but he wasn't the Orlando City player everyone was talking about in the MLS's back tournament, because Nani just absolutely exploded for them in the knockout. Obviously throughout the tournament, if they had won, Nani would have probably been the MVP of that tournament. However, that has not been the case in Phase 1 of the regular season, as Chris Mueller has continued that form that he showed in the start of the season with 2 goals and 2 assists since the tournament. His play has been so impressive that I feel like he should get some consideration for the USMNT, obviously the United States men's national team. Because he's just doing it all. He's got 80%. He completed 80% of his 27 passes so far. He gets his team in position with 1.4 key passes, and he can create on his own with one dribble, at least one successful dribble per game. So, Chris Mueller is a big reason why Orlando City are continuously shocking people this MLS season, and possibly going to be giving Orlando City their best season ever. So keep an eye on that. Next, we got Alejandro Pozuelo of Toronto FC. Pozuelo has been an absolute beast in the early portion of this MLS season. He has been the talisman playmaker pretty much of the entire MLS. He leads the league with 7 assists, and he chips in 2 goals as well. But then, 3.8 key passes per game, 3 successful dribbles per game. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. He had 5 assists during the group stage of the tournament, so that's where a big chunk of those assists came from. But since he's tallied a goal and 2 assists in 4 games, which is still super, super good. He always has a goal, a hand in every Toronto FC game. It's hard not to feel him, when you're watching him on the screen, as he is the best creator and playmaker in the MLS right now. Next, we have Darwin Quintero for the Houston Dynamo. He's got 4 goals and 4 assists so far this season. The former Minnesota United winger is just putting on a show for Houston so far this season. He's been the creative hub of that team and has also been their best goal scorer. He's averaging 2.6 key passes and 2 successful dribbles per game. Him and Alberth Ellis would be considered the best 1-2 punch in the they might be already. They just got to put some more victories together. They got to find a way to win some of these games, because right now they're 10th in the Western Conference, so that's not looking too good. But that 2-goal, 1-assist performance by Quintero in the game against Sporting Kansas City, who have been showing to be probably one of the best teams in the league this year, was unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, make sure you guys go watch that, of course, after this podcast. So, Darwin Quintero, definitely one of the top performers so far in this early season. Next, I need to talk about Raul Rudy Diaz. The hero for Seattle last season with his, just obviously the goal and assist that he had in the MLS Cup final. But Rudy Diaz has just exploded onto this MLS scene. In 2018, he scored 10 goals in 14 appearances for Seattle. And, of course, last season, his 11 goals and 2 assists were huge for Seattle, winning them their 2nd title ever. And he has just been huge once again this season. His 2-goal, 1-assist performance against Portland Timbers was an absolute beauty. Both of those goals were just huge. And he could have easily gone for a hat-trick, but he decided to pass it to his teammate to get the 3rd goal. And he's just been huge. And they'll need every bit of that magic to get back to that MLS mountaintop. And, it's just like the way that he goes about the game. The Peruvian international is just, he's just got the, what is it? I can't say it in the podcast. He's just got the confidence, I guess you could say. He's got the confidence to take any shot you ask. And he can do it all. And last on this list, we're going to be talking about Christian Pavón for the LA Galaxy. He has just been exactly what the LA Galaxy were hoping they were getting last season for him. With Chicharito's start in LA not going as planned, Pavón has had to step in a huge, huge way. And he's creating so many actions for them and he's been a part of 8 of their 13 goals so far this season. He's literally dragged them to a top 5 position in the Western Conference, and no one was expecting that from them without Chicharito. Obviously we know that Javier Hernandez, he's been injured so far this season, so it's just, Pavón with his 5 goals, 3 assists, 4 successful dribbles per game, just doing absolutely everything for the LA Galaxy, and they need to thank their lucky stars that he's doing that, because if not, this would be a mess of a season. So yeah, that's going to finish it off with those top performers of the MLS season. Now let's get into the best part of this segment, which is the top transfer news going on in the world. And like I was talking about earlier in the show, Messi is possibly staying in Barcelona. Actually, I recently saw a rumor saying that he's already said, he put a statement out, he wants to stay. Not that he wants to stay, but that he's going to stay, just to avoid those legal battles. I mean, we all knew that this Messi transfer saga was not going to end quickly. He's just too big of a figure for Barca to just let him go without fighting. And the biggest battle was the €700 million release clause that he had in his contract. I mean, Messi's father just believes that he should be able to leave for free, since there is a clause in that contract that says that he can leave for free at the end of any season. But Barcelona are saying that isn't the case anymore, because that clause ends in July, which is when the season usually ends. Obviously, that's not the same this season. The season ended in August because of the pandemic, and La Liga and Barcelona are using that to their advantage to be able to keep Messi in the league and obviously in their club. And I think that's just so terrible. I mean, whatever. You do whatever you got to do to, make sure you're good. Because obviously, if they let Messi go for free, which, I mean, he's going to do it anyways next season, because nobody can afford 700 million euros. I mean, even with players and cash combined, that's just not going to happen. Not even Manchester City, not even PSG, nobody can afford that. So obviously, Barcelona and La Liga know that if they hold on to that clause, they're keeping their star man. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And Messi has now decided that he's going to stay for the season to just avoid any legal battles and avoid any Messi exit. I mean, it's already a Messi exit, but it's just to avoid any problems with Barcelona. So, yeah, that's how that's turning out. Another top transfer news, we have Manchester United and its fans are desperate to get Jadon Sancho. I mean, we've known this, but Manchester United just recently signed Donny van de Beek for 40 million euros. I talked about that in my last show, and fans obviously love that signing. It adds great attacking flair in the midfield, but it's Manchester United fans. They want more, obviously. They still want Sancho as a top transfer target. And no question, adding Sancho would be huge for Manchester United. Not only just obviously in the storylines and just him being a huge face for the club, but he would increase their depth in the attack, because right now, I mean, they have Martial, Greenwood, and Rashford, who are excellent players, but neither is a bona fide game changer. I mean, I like Martial as your number 9. Greenwood looks like he has the potential, but he's just not there yet. He hasn't put it all together like Jadon Sancho has. And bringing in Sancho would just be, would just do that. And of course for Rashford, I don't think he's lived up to the hype that people were really putting on him. Of course he broke out onto the Premier League scene and looked really good early on, but he hasn't shown that. That X factor. So Sancho coming in brings that for them, and I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're gonna get him. I really don't think so. I think Borussia Dortmund are gonna really want to hold on to him for at least another season, so they can go at it with him, Erling Haaland. I mean, they feel like they got something there. I mean, adding Munir, they have a really solid squad, and they can make a run. I don't think they're not gonna make a run for Bayern Munich and the top of the Bundesliga, but they can make another run in the Champions League, no doubt about it. They have a lot of quality in that side. So next we have Kai Havertz leaving the Germany camp to finalize his Chelsea transfer. I mean, my goodness, this dream transfer window for Chelsea is just continuing. I mean, they've already brought in Timo Werner, Ben Chilwell, Hakim Ziyech, Thiago Silva, and Malang Sarr already, and which by itself would already be considered the best transfer of any team in a long time. However, now they're set to add wonder kid Kai Havertz to the squad, and for what I've heard, a less transfer fee than what was originally reported. Like, it was at first reported that it was going to be like 90 million euros, but now it's looking more like 70 million euros, which I don't even know how the hell that's possible. Like, I mean, Havertz is one of the best midfielders. I mean, he played like one of the best midfielders last year, and if you're talking about just young midfielders, he was probably the best. So just being able to bring him in along with what they've already gotten, I could see this arguably being one of the best transfer windows ever. Of course, I mean, obviously I'm a very young soccer fan, so I don't know every single transfer window. But, I mean, from as long as I've been a soccer fan, nothing has even touched this. This is number one in my opinion. Even more than what PSG did because, just one player in Neymar or Mbappe. That was huge. But it's just like, I just feel like this is just bigger. And of course, we have to wait to see how all of these players mix with the current squad. And I'm not a fan of them sticking with their current goalkeeping situation, which I've heard could possibly change, but it's certainly in the But like even with that, it's still in the conversation as one of the best. So, keep an eye out on. I've said this already a bunch of times. Keep an eye out on Chelsea. Next, we got Memphis Depay. Being the first step in Barcelona's rebuild as they agreed to terms on a 40 million euro deal. The new manager of Barcelona, as we all know, is Ronald Koeman. He's of course was the manager of the Netherlands national team. So it is no surprise that he's been linked to a few of his former Dutch players. Depay being the first to officially agree to terms with the Spanish Giants. Ooh, my bad. And of course, he was also linked with Gini Wijnaldum of Liverpool. Those would both be big signings. I mean, not like monumental signings, but it's like good to add to the depth. And of course, Depay was injured last season in Liga, but he's shown the ability to take over games with his skills and goal-scoring prowess. This would be a solid signing for Barca, but they'll need more if they are to really challenge Real Madrid. I mean, let's just be honest. But think about it. Depay going to Barcelona, this is probably a big dream for him. I mean, it's a dream for a lot of players to play for these big historic clubs. So, good on him. Good on him. It's still not official. It's just the player and the club has agreed to terms, so they still need to talk with Lyon to try to get him out of there. But it looks like he's pretty much on his way. And last, we're going to be talking, I got to talk some MLS Inter Miami news because there's always something going on there with big names after big names linked to them. But this looks official. Gonzalo Higuain heading to Inter Miami, and then Luis Suarez possibly replacing him at Juve. What? Miami just once again being linked to another Juve player. Obviously, they've already signed Blaise Matuidi, and it looks like Higuain, he's already agreed to terms with David Beckham's side. That's just unbelievable. This would be a huge, I don't even have to say it, that this would be a huge signing for Miami. They would be getting a world-class striker in Gonzalo Higuain, who has proven his ability to score consistently in Europe. He would arguably be one of the best strikers in the MLS, or the best striker in the MLS. Of course, you got Josef Martinez of Atlanta, who's killing it over there. But with the resume of Higuain, it's on par with I'm not gonna say with Zlatan. Zlatan's on another level. He's probably the best MLS player we've ever seen. But he would be close. He would take Inter Miami to another level, especially with, obviously them having a huge hole at that number 9 spot. And as we were promised with this project, big name signing after big name signings, or at least linked to South Beach. Let's freaking go, man. I'm hyped. You guys know I'm from Miami, so I'm a huge Inter Miami fan, and I'm hyped. Because what's going on with the club right now, they've looked really... they've looked better than what the record shows, but, bringing in Gonzalo Higuain, he's going to bring so much scoring to the club. So I'm very excited for that. Now, next... Oh no, that's going to finish it up, guys. So that's it for that segment. Make sure you guys stick around for my final segment, we all know, come on, my top 10 central midfielders in the world.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are about to wrap up the show, and with this last segment, we're going to be talking about the top 10 central midfielders in the world. But also, if you guys missed it, in the last segment, we talked about the top performers of the MLS so far this season, and of course, some big-time transfer news. And so let's get right into the top 10 central midfielders in the world. This position requires so much. I mean, like, every central midfielder is expected to help out on the defensive end and, of course, be big-time players on the offensive end as well. That's what they call box-to-box midfielders. So before I even talk about the top 10, I just want to talk about, like, what problems I was having here with trying to consider, if I should have a central midfielder list or I should just go to an attacking midfielder list. The thing is that when I really thought about it, I was missing out on so many top players when I was putting in my attacking mid. There's just so many good midfielders that I just felt like I needed to add this extra list just to, talk about some of these other guys. So let's get right into it, with number 10 being David Silva of Manchester City. The legend of Man City, David Silva, starts off this list. Usually, he would appear on the attacking midfielder list that is coming up in my next show, but as he's gotten up there in age, Pep Guardiola has moved him back and has De Bruyne as the main attacking midfielder. And that change did absolute wonders for Silva, as he is still one of the best playmaking midfielders in the world. I mean, he's got 6 goals and 10 assists this year. His 10 assists actually are good for second on this list, and you combine that with his 1.7 key passes, 1.2 dribbles per game, and then completing 89% of his 59 passes per game. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He deserves to be on this list. But he's not a game changer on the defensive end, which is why he doesn't go any higher. But he still contributes with 0.8 tackles per game. I mean, not terrible, but not nothing like notable. But still, David Silva comes in at number 10, 100%. Worthy of a number 10 spot. So next we got number 9, another Manchester player, but not from City, from United, Paul Pogba. Pogba is usually much higher on this type of list, but this season he was riddled with injuries and he just couldn't get much consistent time on the pitch. He definitely stepped it up for Man United during their Europa League run that crashed out in the semifinal, and is still an integral part of this team, even if he hasn't been able to live up to that 100 million euro transfer fee. He's still as cheeky as ever with his 1.8 key passes, 2 dribbles per game, which is near the tops on this list. He works very hard for his team, and despite being active in the attack, would get back as well, and was an effective tackler with 1.4 tackles per game. He's also very strong in terms of playmaking, getting his team involved. He's got 3 assists. He completes 86% of his 64 passes per game, and he completes 5.7 long balls per game. So he's good at, changing the point of attack for his team. And no doubt in my mind, if Pogba is healthy next season, he'll make his way up this list once again. Next, we got Ever Banega of Sevilla coming in at number 8. I was very close to putting Banega even higher on this list after his performance for Sevilla in the Europa League, but I felt like 8 was a solid spot for him. He's one of the best playmakers on this list. I mean, his 11 assists lead this list. And he's second on this list in successful dribbles with 2 per game. He was the set piece taker for Sevilla throughout their very successful season and got teammates in the right spots time and time again with nearly 2 key passes per game, 7 long balls per game, and completing 86% of his 66 passes per game. He was also very reliable on defense with 1.2 tackles per game. So he pretty much did it all for Sevilla and was a big reason why they were able to win the Europa League title this season. Coming in at number 7, we've got Bernardo Silva of Manchester City. This was the toughest decision on this list as I just wasn't sure whether to place him as a winger, attacking midfielder, center midfielder. But his versatility is one of the best things about him. He just played all over the pitch for Manchester United in that last season and made things a lot easier for Pep Guardiola. I mean, aside from De Bruyne and David Silva, Bernardo was their next best playmaker. And he's arguably their most complete attacking player, as he can do pretty much anything asked of him on that end. He scores goals, as he had 7 this season. He sets up teammates with 8 assists and 1.3 key passes per game. Controls the midfield with 91% of completing 91% of his 41 passes per game. And he creates for himself with 1.1 dribbles per game. And he'll even contribute on the defensive end a bit with 1 tackle per game. I mean, Bernardo Silva, one of the best center midfielders, or just one of the best players out there. And pretty much any team would be lucky to have him. But he just wasn't good enough to get any higher on this list because the guys ahead of him just had stellar seasons, with Leon Gorezka coming in at number 6 from Bayern Munich. Before this season started, Gorezka was literally one of the last players on my mind that would play a vital role for Bayern. I mean, obviously I was thinking about Müller, of course, Lewandowski, Kimmich, I mean, all those guys. But Gorezka, I didn't think about him. But man, was he just huge for them. He contributed mightily on the offensive end with 10 goals, which just so happens to be best on this list. And he added 6 assists while also completing 87% of his 37 passes per game. His control of the ball was just impeccable and was one of the biggest reasons Bayern controlled nearly every game they played. And of course, ultimately won the treble. I mean, his ability to play box-to-box was also essential to Bayern winning and was one of the main reasons why I put him this high on this list, as he averaged 1.3 tackles and 1.1 interceptions per game. But like, one of the things that was great, I mean, during that Champions League game versus Barcelona, Gorezka gave I believe it was Gnabry such a nice lob pass off, like, it was one touch. The ball was running his way, and he just one-touched it over the entire defense, perfectly in front of Gnabry. And at first, when I saw it, I thought that was Thomas Müller. Like, I expected that from Müller. But then when I saw closer it was Gorezka, I was like, what? Like, he is definitely one of the best midfielders in the world now, and I feel like he's just going to continue to get better. So now we get to number 5, and here I'm going to be talking about Frankie De Young of Barcelona. I mean, after breaking out with Ajax last season, De Jong has made that big move to Barcelona and has established himself as one of the best midfielders in the world. De Jong handled his first season there very well, and although it was a terrible season for the team, De Jong showed a lot of promise and will be vital to Koeman's team for the foreseeable future. I mean, they got to hope to hold on to him. I mean, he's obviously really happy to be there. I mean, and I feel like he's the type of player that'll be there for years. I mean, he's excellent at bringing the ball up the pitch and dealing with pressure from defenders, as he averaged 1.7 dribbles per game. His passing was also top-notch, as he completed 92% of his 58 passes per game and delivering passes that cut through opposing defenses as if they were butter. I mean, just huge for him. And he also contributed on the defensive end, like as these center midfielders are expected. But he had 1.1 tackles and just under 1 interception per game. In terms of like standard stats with like the goals and assists, he didn't do too much with his 2 goals and 2 assists, but that's because he's expected to be, more back, control the midfield. But don't be surprised if he pulls out, 5+ goals, 5+ assists in a season. He's got that ability. So, Frankie De Young coming in at number 5. Next, we got number 4, probably the most surprising guy on this list. I mean, not for this season, but like before this season started, you would not have expected to be on this type of list. Jordan Henderson of Liverpool. The captain of easily the best team in the Premier League. Henderson had a huge season for the Reds. He controlled the midfield with his deadly passing and strong tackling. He averaged 2.1 tackles, 1.1 interceptions, and 0.9 aerials per game. Just laying it all out there for his club. And just like the heart and leadership that he shows, it's obviously number 1 on the defensive end. Because he knows that with fullbacks Alexander-Arnold and Robertson pushing up the field, he is he's needed to stay in the back. And he was huge. But also with that passing that he has, he completed 84% of his 63 passes per game and would continuously find attackers with his 4.1 long balls per game and just under a key pass per game. Honestly, I was surprised that he only had 4 goals and 5 assists for the season, which is still pretty solid. But just with like the way he was playing and how effective he was in that club, normally people would be like, what does he really do? Why do they need him? They could probably sign someone bigger. But when you look at what he meant to them, like when he was on the pitch and when he was off, in his 30 Premier League appearances, they won 27 times and lost just once. Overall, they lost 3 games in the season and had 3 draws. So whenever, and the thing is, like, a lot of the things that people would say is that when Henderson was on the field, you can just feel that Liverpool were just more together. Like as if like Henderson was the glue to their greatness, and the Liverpool captain just showed it, and it's a huge reason why Liverpool were able to end that 30-year drought of a Premier League title. And that's why he comes in at number 4. Definitely deserving of that. Now we're getting into another tier. These guys are obviously top-notch players coming in, the top 3. And at number 3, we have Luca Modric of Real Madrid. Luca Modric is coming off one of the best seasons in recent memory in 2018 when he led his Croatian side to 2nd place in the World Cup. That resulted in him winning the UEFA Men's Player of the Year award and Ballon d'Or. The first player not named Messi and Ronaldo to do that in over a decade. Hats off to him. Not many people would expect a guy like Modric to get that kind of award or to get that kind of recognition, and he 100% deserves it. He is a world-class player, world-class midfielder, and now this season he's not as good as he was 2 years ago, but Modric, he's still one of the craftiest players at his position, completing 89% of his 46 passes to go with 1.2 dribbles, 1.2 key passes, and of course 7 assists on the year. Along with a certain German midfielder, Modric controls Real Madrid's midfield and makes sure they almost always have an advantage in that area. He also gives you a bit defensively. Always as well, with 1.1 tackles and just under an interception per game. He's just a smart player and does it all for Real Madrid year in and year out. And that's honestly, for a long time, I wasn't a fan of Real Madrid, but just the fact that they hold on to a guy like Modric, who isn't your typical Real Madrid player, but he's just been so effective for them and just is always in the right places. It just made me really like Real Madrid a lot more than I did before. So that is exactly why Luka Modric comes in at number 3. Number 2, we have his teammate, Toni Kroos. Kroos has been one of the best midfielders in the world for a while now, and deservedly so. He's been a consistent world-class presence in the middle of the pitch for Real Madrid, and he's arguably their best playmaker. Forget that. He's their best playmaker. And he completes 94% of his 69 passes to go with 2.1 key passes, just under a dribble per game, and of course those 6 assists. He's Real Madrid's official set piece taker, as his crosses are just ridiculous. They're pinpoint every single time, and his ability to spread the ball around the pitch to pick out attackers and just do what he does with those long balls, it's second to none. The only other person I would think that his that can match his long ball production is Alexander Arnold. But just what Toni Kroos is able to do in that midfield, it's just ridiculous. Oh, and I forgot, if you need a score, he's got that in his bag as well, with 6 goals on the season, which is one of the best on this list. I believe it's like third best or second best on this list. And now, last but certainly not least, we got Thiago of Bayern Munich. No doubt in my mind, Thiago deserves to be at the top of this list. And I'll admit, I actually forgot him in that, because I think I would have put him as a center defensive midfielder. He played a lot of that for Bayern Munich this season, but I see him more as a box-to-box midfielder. And that's why he comes in at number 1 in the center midfielding list. He completely controlled Bayern's midfield with his world-class passing and dribbling. He averaged 2.5 dribbles per game, easily tops this list, and he even gives you, and of course 1 key pass per game to go with those 2 assists. And that's the crazy thing. He only had 3 goals and 2 assists, and is still considered, he's one of the best players in the world right now. He even completed 91% of his 77 passes per game. That's also pretty much, like, in terms of, percentage to pass per game ratio, that's probably the best on this list. Only, if anything, second to just Toni Kroos, who had the 94% on 69 passes. But, my goodness. And then the fact that he's able to be easily the best defender on this list with 2.3 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 1.4 aerials per game, it's just, come on, what else can I say? Thiago, easily best center midfielder in the world today, and I'm telling you, for Bayern Munich to lose this type of guy, it's going to hurt them. It really is. But, of course, they have so much quality. So whichever team gets Thiago, please, PSG, even though it looks like he might be heading to Liverpool, which is just ridiculous. That's just, oh my God, I don't even want to think about that. That's just crazy that Thiago can get into Liverpool and make that team even better. But yeah, that guy's a staple, and he's gonna be probably on this list again next year. So yeah, Thiago comes in at number 1, and that's going to finish up my list. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I'm enjoying bringing it to you guys. Like I always say, and I'm not just saying that. I really do love talking sports with you, and hopefully you guys feel the same. So make sure you guys stick around for more episodes. Obviously in the next show I'm going to talk about the center attacking midfielders, which is a very, very exciting list. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. So as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I would really appreciate it. Thank you, and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.